The Brooklyn Nets recently formed a new big three within the NBA as they traded for superstar James Harden just over a week ago. However, after a few games, there's been some noticeable issues with this team that they will need to fix as soon as possible if they wish to legitimately contend for an NBA championship. I'll be going over what those are and how they can be solved in today's video. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. I'm trying to hit 16,000 subscribers by February, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. I'm just going to jump straight to the point. The big problem with the Nets is their defense, and I know many are aware that's the case, but I feel like the actual extent of how poor they are on that end is often overlooked. When the Nets made the blockbuster trade to acquire Harden, they lost arguably their most important frontcourt/center player in Jarrett Allen. Allen's a hard-hitting rebounder and rim protector, and overall is a very good inside defender. He also has so much potential to be better too across the board, as he's just 22 years old. So it's obvious why the Cavaliers were stoked to land him in the blockbuster four-way deal. With him gone though, the Nets now have to rely on a well past his prime DeAndre Jordan and small ball center Jeff Green. This has hurt the Nets clearly in their opening few games with the big three, and there's a couple stats that make that extremely evident. Since losing Allen to acquire Harden, the Nets have had the third worst defense in the whole NBA in the 4 games they've played together. What makes that stat even more alarming and worrying for Brooklyn is that in 3 of those 4 games, the team they've played has had a bottom 5 offense, so it's crazy to imagine how negatively this could affect them against an elite offensive side like the Lakers. With Harden and Kyrie notoriously being below average defenders throughout their career, it's clear something needs to happen to save this team from an early playoff exit. Teams with a bottom 5 defense rarely ever go far in the postseason, let alone compete for a championship. So this is an area that needs to be looked at ASAP. But how do the Nets fix this problem? Well, Brooklyn has a sizable trade exception that they'll be able to use in a trade for a defensive player, so they won't have to give a similar amount up in return. The big area that needs fixed that will help make them at least an average defensive team is their front court. So the easiest thing to do, in my view, would be to acquire Javale McGee for cheap from the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs are stacked on big men, and Javale has fallen out of the rotation, so it makes sense on both sides for a deal to be made. Having him on the team will serve some big benefits for the Nets. First, they get an upgrade over DeAndre Jordan. Due to Jordan's lack of mobility, he can't be as versatile of a defender as the Nets would like for them to be good on that end, as his ability to defend the pick and roll and on the baseline cuts is limited. McGee is far more athletic and capable to complete those roles to a higher level, so a rotation involving him often could help the Nets a fair amount in the long term, in my opinion. McGee's likely to be a cheap pickup as well, so I don't see why they can't make a trade work that will allow them to acquire him. Another thing that would benefit Brooklyn's defense is playing better offense. Obviously, it's very early in their tenure, so I don't want to seem like I'm putting pressure on them to be perfect right away. But cutting down fast break opportunities from things like turnovers will be key to them improving their defense and increasing their chances to make an NBA Finals appearance. Overall, this is the problem with the Brooklyn Nets and how they can fix it. To keep it simple, it's defense, and the issue has risen since the Harden trade, as they had to give away some pretty important pieces from their roster on that end. Ever since, they've been one of the league's worst sides in that area, and if things don't change, they're going to have a more difficult time making a deep playoff run than it may seem on the surface. There are some things they can do to improve it in terms of trades. Getting a guy like Javale McGee is the obvious option, as it improves their big man depth and is a cost-effective replacement of Jarrett Allen. but there's probably plenty of other guys on the market they'll look at before making a move. At the end of the day, though Brooklyn's defense has been horrific so far in this Big 3 era, it isn't the end of the world. This is mendable, this can be fixed, and with some smart decision making by the front office at the trade deadline, there's no doubt in my mind they can turn things around. For right now though, it's been a glaring issue holding the Nets back as the new era in the city gets underway, and hopefully that changes, because on a purely NBA fan level, a Nets finals appearance is something I'd absolutely love to see. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? Will the Nets' problem on defense hold them back this season? And what do they do in your opinion to fix it? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.